What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hutch Coming in Clutch. I'm your host, Hutchison Brown, and today we got a fantastic show. We're helping y'all prepare for battle for Week 7 of the 2025 NFL season. We got a lot going on the show today. So without further ado, before I get into the podcast episode, please follow me on Twitter at HutchisonB_FF. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening so you'll be notified every single time a new episode does drop. Now, without further ado, let's get into the podcast today. We are going to start with some bye week news as well as some injury updates. So let's get into it. Returning from bye, we've got the Vikings and the Texans. So get those players that you want in your laps back in your laps. Your Justin Jeffersons, your Nico Collins, CJ Strouds, your JJ McCarthy if he's active, or your Jordan Masons. Get those guys back in your lineups if you want to. So those guys are back from bye. Now, looking going on by, you got two good teams here, the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. So your Derrick Henrys, your Zay Flowers, your Mark Andrews. And for the Buffalo side, you got your Josh Allen, Khalil Shakirs, Keon Coleman's, James Cooks. Get these guys, Dalton Kincaid, get these guys out of your lineups. Now let's get into the QB injury updates. Anthony Richardson for the Colts, he is out. This injury was really sad, actually. Placed on IR, season ending. He's going to be out for a while. It's so sad. He had an accident with a stretch band, and it actually hit him in the eye and fractured a bone near his eye. Like, it's just a horrible accident, and he's unfortunately going to miss serious time because of it. So hopefully he has a good recovery process, man. This seems like a really bad injury. Now, looking at the rest of the quarterback news, Lamar Jackson, obviously the Baltimore Ravens are on bye this week. He is out, but he plans to come back after the bye week. So love to see that. Kyler Murray, questionable the foot injury, status to be monitored through practice. So far, he's been very limited in practices. Haven't seen too much about that. So keep an eye on him. He did miss last week, so he's definitely a significant risk to miss this week yet again. But if he plays, not the most confident QB1 start. He hasn't been a QB1 in any game this year. Now let's look at the running back injury reports. Bucky Irving, he is out with his back and hip injuries. He's going to miss the game. So then wide receiver injury reports here. Garrett Wilson, hyperextended his knee. He's out. Expected to miss multiple weeks. I just said Garrett Wilson. Emeka Ibuka, he is out with a hamstring. Expected to miss a couple of weeks. Probably going to go through, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a week 9 bye. If I'm not mistaken, I think he'll probably miss every game up and through that bye and then come back after in week 10. Marvin Harrison Jr. is questionable. He's in the concussion protocol. Definitely worth keeping an eye on this one. Concussions usually end up missing 1 to 2 weeks. DJ Moore, he's day-to-day and questionable with a groin injury. Expected to be monitored closely, but most reports show that he is probably going to play. I'd expect him to play. Now let's look at the rest of the wide receivers here. CeeDee Lamb, questionable for this week with an ankle injury. He's actually trending towards playing, and if he is, he's back in your lineups, but I wouldn't expect stud wide receiver 1 numbers yet. I'd be cautious putting the expectations that high. Now, in Terry McLaurin, the stats for him is promising. We did see these same reports last week, and he did not play. So keep an eye on this one. If he is back, he's probably in fantasy lineups as a solid wide receiver 2 play. Then looking at Noah Brown, groin injury, out for a while. He's going to be gone for a little bit here. And then let's look at the tight end injury reports. TJ Hawkinson, out with a knee. Mike Gesicki, out with a pectoral injury, placed in IR. And then Brock Bowers, likely going to be out. He's going to be out for a while. The Raiders have a bye next week. And so, yeah, hopefully he comes back after the bye, but it's no guarantees. And then lastly, David Njoku, questionable with a knee injury that he suffered in this last game. The reports have been very quiet, which means it could be basically nothing, or it could be something that the Browns are really hiding from us a little bit, and it could be very, very serious. So I would keep an eye on this one very closely. If he were to miss, Harold Fan Jr., man, he gets a big bump up. If he's not available on waivers still, go ahead and grab him. Use a big waiver wire pickup talk for me on the Tuesday show. Now let's edit into my next segment of the show, my coming in clutch or fudge players of the week, the players that are going to come in clutch in your fantasy football lineups this week, or the players that you're going to look back and say, oh, fudge, why did I start that player in my fantasy lineup this week? So we're going to start with my coming in clutch quarterback of the week. It is Caleb Williams of the Chicago Bears. He gets the New Orleans Saints, and the New Orleans Saints are a fantastic matchup. They've allowed 2+ passing touchdowns to every single quarterback they've faced. Caleb Williams looks really good as well. He has 3 games finishing as a top 10 quarterback on the week this year so far. This Bears offense is electric. We're starting to see Luther Burden rise to the occasion for this Bears offense. We saw 4 catches, 50 yards this last week. We've had a 100-yard game. We've had a couple of nice big plays downfield. This offense really seems to be clicking at all cylinders in terms of explosive plays. Now, consistency needs to be there for Caleb Williams. He's still developing that in this new system with Ben Johnson, but it's still working for fantasy, whether or not you like it or not. And he's also running the ball pretty well. We've seen the rushing production slightly decline over the last couple of weeks with no games of 20 rushing yards for 3 straight weeks. But the rushing attempts are still there, and we know he's athletic. He can break one at any moment. So Caleb is worth the start against a good matchup of the New Orleans Saints. Now let's head to the running back position. This one's kind of simple. It's Quinshon Judkins versus the Miami Dolphins. I mean, obviously, most people are going to be starting Quinshon Judkins, but I'm making him my coming to Clutch player of the week. I'm projecting a top 5 running back finish on the week against the Miami Dolphins. He went 12 for 36 last week, and many will be discouraged by this performance, but I say we're going to see a bounce back game against the Miami Dolphins. Miami allows the most rushing yards in the NFL this year, and if you're looking for some betting props, hey man, I mean, his rushing line is probably going to be in the 80s. I'm absolutely smashing that over. He is going to run the ball a lot in this game. Miami's defense is very, very weak in that run game. We just saw Rico Dowdle run for about 200 yards in this team. We've seen plenty of running backs to dominate this team. Quinshon Judkins looks incredibly talented on the football field, breaking tackles nonstop, creating big chunk plays nonstop as a runner and a little bit in the receiving game as well. He is a dominant running back. Against the Miami defense, he should dominate. Now, let's head to wide receiver. My wide receiver coming in clutch, or my coming in clutch wide receiver of the week is DK Metcalf of the Pittsburgh Steelers going against the Cincinnati Bengals. He has had 4 straight games with a touchdown, and over the last 2 weeks, he is doing really, really well. 126 yards, 95 yards on 9 total catches in 2 games. They're throwing to him downfield. They're giving him out more opportunities to create yards after the catch, and it is going very, very well. So I'd love to see that for DK Metcalf. He gets a matchup this week with the Cincinnati Bengals, who have allowed at least 170+ yard wide receiver in every single game this season. And they're especially bad against those big time wide receivers, those big, tall, athletic wide receivers. Someone like Cortland Sutton, who they played a couple weeks ago, he got 80 yards and a touchdown on them. So Cincinnati Bengals, the matchup for wide receivers is very good. Metcalf should be able to dominate. Now let's look at the tight end position. My coming in clutch tight end of the week is Mason Taylor of the New York Jets. Over the last 3 weeks, he's earned 25 total targets. If you're excluding this last week against the Denver Broncos, the 3 weeks prior to this last week he only had 1 catch. But it was a very weird game. I'm expecting a bounce back this week against the Carolina Panthers. They are 31st in fantasy points per game allowed to the tight end position, allowing a lot of red zone targets specifically to the tight end. And when you look at this offense, Garrett Wilson is the clear-cut wide receiver 1, but he is going to be out, meaning that Mason Taylor, who's been really stepping up for the Jets as the number 2 receiving option for the last couple weeks, is going to have a huge opportunity to step up for Justin Fields and be that number 1 target. And I expect him to rise to the occasion. He's looked really good on the football field this year. So Mason Taylor's a must start. He's probably going to see at least 8+ targets at the tight end position. That's a start-worthy player. Now, let's head to my fudge players of the week, players that you don't want to start in your fantasy football lineups this week. We're going to start with my quarterback. It is Jackson Dart of the New York Giants going against the Denver Broncos this week. Jackson Dart was a waiver wire pickup from this week. I do like him long term, but this week I'd hesitate starting him as a quarterback 1, which I see about 20 to 30% of people are doing on sleeper leagues. I highly hesitate to do that, or strongly suggest you hesitate to do that. He's been running the ball a lot, 50+ rushing yards a game since he's taken over the starter. He's looked good with the football in his hands. I just doubt him this week. The Denver Broncos are creating the most pressure and creating the most sacks in the entire NFL this year, and the Giants' offensive line is not that special. So I'm looking at Jackson Dart as a player that's probably going to be a lot under pressure this week, and you take a rookie in one of his first few games under a lot of pressure. I think we see a similar game to what we saw in New Orleans, where he threw multiple interceptions, looked a little rattled, and overall just had a poor game. We're going to see Pat Surtain locking down whoever's on the outside. This defense has looked great this year. I'm just expecting poor things for Jackson Dart, probably at least a turnover, if not 2, and overall a little shaken up play. Now let's head to the running back position. This is a must bench at all costs to me. Like, I am not putting this player in my lineup, and it's Tony Pollard. This is like red alert for this week against New England Patriots. So Tony Pollard has lost snaps and opportunities. He's seen season lows and snaps and opportunities in back-to-back weeks. Since Tajay Spears has come on the football field, he has been really productive with the work he's got in the receiving game. He's been steadily productive as a rusher as well with the limited opportunities he's gotten, and he's really eaten into Pollard's workload. And as a result, Pollard has become an incredibly touchdown-dependent play. And this week, he gets a matchup with the New England Patriots, who have not allowed a single 50-yard runner this season. And that's just a situation I do not want for fantasy football. So Tony Pollard, he is out of lineups for me this week if you got him. Now let's talk about DJ Moore versus New Orleans Saints. He's my my fudge wide receiver of the week. I don't like DJ Moore against New Orleans Saints. I love Caleb Williams, but DJ Moore is a player that you have to bench because he only has one game of 10 PPR points. He only has one game with 5+ catches this year. He just has not been steadily involved in the offense at all. And Luther Bird is continuing to make huge flashes. Fresh off the bye week, the Bears did not show a priority to get DJ Moore involved, but they showed a priority to get Luther Bird more involved, giving him 4 catches on 4 targets. He is somebody that's rising in this offense, and DJ Moore looks like a player that's just the odd one out here. And as a result, I just don't want to start in fantasy football despite the intriguing matchup. My fudge tight end of the week here, it is going to be Michael Mayer of the Las Vegas Raiders. When you look at the game last week, 7 targets, 5 catches, 50 yards. He got a touchdown. This was against the Tennessee Titans, a much weaker defense against the tight end position. But now he gets a matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs that's a lot more difficult. They are bottom 5 in fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. Not even 9 points per game allowed to the position as a whole this year from Kansas City. Looking at this game as well, I just think this is purely stat chasing. Michael Mayer missed the last couple of weeks with injury, came in the first week back, took advantage of a weaker tight end defense, and was overall able to have a good game. I just think that he's a backup tight end. He's an average player. I think you're looking at pure stat chasing here. And against the Kansas City Chiefs defense, I just don't trust Geno Smith to be able to get it done. I do not trust this offense to be able to get it done very much. I expect this to be a lower scoring contest for the Raiders side. And as a result, I just don't like Michael Mayer in this matchup. So do not stat chase with Michael Mayer. Put him on your bench. Now, without further ado, that's it for my Come In Clutch and Fudge players of the week. We're going to jump into the listener Q&A, answer some questions. First one here, thoughts on this trade. I traded away Rico Dowdle and Keenan Allen for Javonte Williams in a tiered PPR format. Absolutely love this deal. I think this is a fantastic deal for you. Keenan Allen has seriously fallen off the cliff lately. He scored 3 touchdowns in his first 3 games to start the year. And then since then, it's just been less receptions, no touchdowns, less red zone usage. We've seen even with Quentin Johnson out, we just didn't see him get crazy involved in this offense. It's been a Rondé Gadsden really stepping up, the rookie tight end for the team, and Ladd McConkey as well stepping up a little bit for this offense. And I just don't see Keenan Allen being a prevalent part of this offense anymore. It seems like it was just a veteran's fresh leg situation. He got in, dominated early, and then he's just kind of fading a little bit. And looking at Rico Dowdle, yes, he had a phenomenal 2-game stretch, but Chuba Hubbard's coming back, and whether we like it or not, there's going to be some form of split here. Rico Dowdle is not going to completely see the bench because a backup running back had 2 phenomenal games against 2 of the league's worst run defenses. I do think Rico Dowdle will be the starter, but there's going to be some form of a committee, and we're not going to see a continuation of what he did over the last 2 weeks. I expect more like borderline RB2 numbers, and as a result, this is a great trade to make for a clear-cut RB1 and Javonte Williams. Great buy low opportunity for Javonte right now. Now, next question. I have Bam Knight and Michael Carter. Who do I keep? Which do I drop? I need a defense. You're dropping Michael Carter. Bam seems to be the starter. I mean, they started with Michael Carter in the week prior, and they made Bam Knight the starter instead, and it looks like they're probably going to stick in that direction. So Bam Knight is the guy here that you're keeping. All right, so next question here. What do you think about Chase Brown this week? Need one running back to start. Chase Brown against Pittsburgh Steelers, Thursday Night Football. Travis Etienne against the Los Angeles Rams. Tony Pollard, who we talk about as a bench. And then Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet against the Houston Texans. All 3 of these matchups are not good for the running back position. So, man, this is difficult. This is really difficult. I'm not starting Chase Brown here. Samaje Perine started to get more involved, especially with receiver on 3rd down, and that takes away Chase Brown's opportunity. I'm not feeling good about the Thursday Night Football matchup. I feel like this is going to be a low-scoring game, like we saw with Pittsburgh and Cleveland just this last week. So I'm out on Chase Brown. ETN's fallen down to earth a little bit. Kenneth Walker stuck in the committee. I'm going to go with ETN here, man. This Jacksonville offense has been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you've looked at what Travis Etienne's done over the season. He's been a very good fantasy football running back, earning a lot of volume. And Jacksonville on offense has been productive with Brian Thomas Jr. finally stepping up. Trevor Lawrence is looking all right. This offensive line's doing solid. Williams Collins does really well this offense, and this team is winning games. I'm going to go with Travis Etienne and trust this offense even in a tougher matchup with the Los Angeles Rams. Now, let's go here. Should I trade Brian Thomas Jr. for Dalton Kincaid? Absolutely not. Do not do that. I like Dalton Kincaid. He has been a very good fantasy tight end this year, but Brian Thomas Jr. is an elite wide receiver. He's a top tier player. You don't sell him for this kind of price after the game he just had. I think this past week was a breakout game. I think rest of season we see a phenomenal year from Brian Thomas Jr. And when you look back, you're not going to be happy that you traded away a top 5 to 8 wide receiver in fantasy football for a top 6 to 8 tight end. I just don't think that you're going to be happy with that. So hold on to Brian Thomas Jr. for now. If you're going to sell for a lot higher of a price tag than that. Like I'm looking for prices that we would have paid for him at draft season, basically. That's kind of the price I'm looking for after the breakout game we saw last week. Now, next question, last one here. Start Rashee Rice? Question mark. What are we doing with Rashee Rice? Yes, you start Rashee Rice. All the reports that I can see have shown that week 1 in the game, he's getting a heavy workload. He's going to be very involved. And honestly, this is your last desperate chance. I mean, probably should have been doing it over the last couple weeks. But if you wanted to trade for Rashee Rice for a relatively low price now, I mean, he's currently ranked as a wide receiver 2 rest of the season on most consensus sites. I'd be happy to pay that price for Rashee Rice. He could absolutely be a top 5 receiver in fantasy. All reports show he's fully healthy off his ACL, ready to go. And this Kansas City Chiefs team needs a wide receiver 1 right now. I mean, Xavier Worthy's filling in nicely, but they could absolutely use Rashee Rice's help. And like I mentioned on the Tuesday show, last chance to sell Travis Kelce. He's had back-to-back good games, and we saw what happened when Rashee Rice was on the field in 2024. He just basically stole Travis Kelce's lunch money and left him in the dust with 12 targets in 3 games. So Kelce, you need to sell. Rice, I would be happy to buy for higher wide receiver 2 prices. And Worthy, I think he'll still be very involved in the offense. Rashee Rice just distracts defenses and gives Worthy more one-on-one opportunities. So I'm not mad about that at all. So last segment of the show, we're going to jump into the over-unders. Let's get into it. All right, we are back, and we do not have a friend. Unfortunately, the person I was scheduling to record the over-unders with canceled on me, and I tried to find someone last minute to be able to join the show. Wasn't able to get somebody, but we're going through this solo today. It's going to be fun. So we got the over-under segment, and the theme for I almost said week 3. The theme for week 7, we're already in week 7, is exciting matchups. 3 good players going into some great matchups. What do we think they're going to do? The first player we're going to talk about is Quinshon Judkins, my coming in clutch running back of the week. Over or under, the line is set at 91.5 rushing yards. Very good line. Miami allows the most rushing yards in football. Quinshon Judkins has hit this in 2 games so far this season. What do we think? I'm going to take the over here. I'm predicting a 100-plus yard rushing game along with a touchdown for Quinshon Judkins. Every team knows Miami's run defense cannot stop anything. The Cleveland run game is probably going to get going early and often, and they're probably going to control the clock, continue to give the ball to Quinshon Judkins, who seems to be the workhorse back of this team. And as a result, he's going to crush 91.5 yards. I mean, not crush it. I think he gets to like 100-something. But 91.5, I'm going to take the over. Even this is a very high line, especially for a rookie running back who's only had a couple of great games this year so far. I still think he hits this though against Miami's defense. Everybody's been beaten up against Miami. Now let's head to Trey McBride, 13.5 fantasy points in a PPR scoring format against the Green Bay Packers, over or under 13.55 points. He has hit this in 2 of his last 4 games so far. One of them because of a touchdown, one of them just because he had enough volume to make it work. The Green Bay defense is currently bottom 5 in fantasy points a game allowed to the tight end position. So what do we think over or under on this line? 13.55 PPR points. I am going to take the under here, just because I think Kyler Murray is going to play. And we've seen Kyler Murray playing. We've seen a lack of receptions, a lack of targets, and a lack of production on this offense. And I think Green Bay is going to be able to control the clock here with Josh Jacobs in this run game. I don't think Arizona is going to perform especially well, especially if Kyler Murray plays. With Brissett, we saw some hope, but I bet with the game film on Brissett, the Packers will be able to limit him on defense. So either way, I'm not feeling good about McBride this week. The only way he gets to 13 points, I feel like it's through a touchdown. I'm not seeing him voluming his way to 13.55 PPR points. So I'm going to take the under here for Trey McBride. And then Cortland Sutton over under 5.5 receptions against the New York Giants. He has 3 games of 6+ catches, and then he has 2 games where he's had 1 catch this year, and then 1 game where he's in the middle. Giants allowed the most receptions to wide receivers this year, so this is really, really good for Cortland Sutton. And given that Denver needs to get this passing game going still, they still haven't found a clear-cut wide receiver 2. Cortland Sutton's been their clear guy. I'm going to take the over here. Jackson Dart in this offense, I don't think it's going to be great, but I think Denver will at least have to throw enough to get Cortland Sutton to over 5.5 receptions. The matchup is fantastic. We know Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton have a great connection. I'm going to take the over here, but it's really, really close. All right, that's it for the over-unders. It was quicker than normal because we don't have the guest on, so just wanted to quickly run through those, though. We'll see how we do in next week's episode. We'll talk about the results here, but that's going to be all for today's episode of Hutch Coming in Clutch. Greatly, greatly appreciate you. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It means a lot that you tune into the podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening, or review or comment wherever you're listening or watching, so you'll be notified every single time a new episode does drop, and you spread the show around. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. I'm at HutchSimB_FF. And also make sure to check out everything going on over at Football Guys. I'm a big contributor over there in a lot of areas. So make sure you check it out over there. We got a great website, great people, and some seriously good analysts over there. So go check out Football Guys, get a subscription, get some league-winning fantasy football content and tools today. Like we were selling this magazine I have up here earlier in the offseason. It's going to be something we're doing more often, I think. So make sure when the next offseason comes around, you get that magazine. It's a pretty cool piece of stuff there. So without further ado, this will be all for the podcast episode today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you yet again. We will see you all next week. Best of luck in your fantasy football matchups. Hope you all have a great weekend of football. Let's get it.